What's happening, guys, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be discussing Andreas Christensen. Now, last night reports came out that Christensen on the morning of the game pulled out of the Chelsea squad for the FA Cup final in a game that he was reportedly in line to be starting, telling Thomas Tuchel that he wasn't ready to play, and that he then went on to check out of the hotel and supposedly wasn't in the stadium. Now, this has caused a bit of a stir on socials. People going in on Christensen, abuse being directed at the player. That none of that is right at all. But yeah, it was reported by Matt Law in a Telegraph. Obviously, this is not great on the surface of it. It doesn't look great. Christensen obviously played against Leeds on the Wednesday night, played the full game, and then supposedly was in line to start this game. It's an interesting thing with Christensen because it seems to be a recurring theme at the moment. Going back even to Maurizio Sarri, who said in the press conference during his time in charge of the club that Christensen on game days would always kind of have stomach pains, be going to the toilet. He obviously suffers with a lot of nerves and a lot of anxiety. Not sure if he's got some sort of illness or just anxiety issues. Obviously, he's not come out and personally said anything on the matter. The club haven't said anything that he's unwell or whatnot. But it's clear that with this being a recurring theme and not just happening as a one-off. He was reportedly dropped out last minute against West Ham as well in the game at Stamford Bridge, where Christian Pulisic got the last-minute winner and Trevor Chalobah stepped in during that game. So this is not just a one-off thing. This is a recurring theme. Now, obviously, there's two sides to every story. And with the reports, you don't get the full picture. You just get the headline, Christensen drops out of FA Cup final squad on morning of the game. And, as a fan, you become very reactionary. You get people that are angry, calling him a snake, get him out of the club, good riddance, etc. It's all very short-sighted. If you actually take a step back and look at the bigger picture, as I said, we don't get the full complexities of exactly what happened. Yes, he obviously told Tuchel he wasn't ready to play for the final. He checked out and didn't go to the stadium. I think personally, from my perspective, these are your teammates. At the end of the day, if you're not ready to play, okay, that's fine. If you don't feel in the right frame of mind, then you've got to say, and you'd rather someone who is in the right frame of mind on the pitch. But I still feel that you should be in the stadium to support your teammates in a cup final. So that's where I think Christensen was in the wrong. I feel personally he should have been at the game watching and cheering on the teammates. But we don't know the full complexities of the situation. So before we wade in, this is a human being at the end of the day. No one deserves abuse. Players come and players go. And whatever you think of him, he'd agreed a new contract and he'd decide to change his mind. Yeah, okay. It happens, This is his career. If he decides that actually is a change of heart and actually, do you know what, I want to go and play somewhere else and I don't want to stay at Chelsea, as frustrating as it is as a fan, you have to respect that. You have to respect that. And, just because you may not like a player or you prefer another player, don't go and abuse a player because they want to leave or because of their circumstances might have changed, Keep that same energy, because when it comes round, and it will come round, that a player that people that you really like, this will happen to them. They'll do the same thing. They might want to leave. They might not do it in the right way and whatnot. So bring that same energy there as well. You can't just pick and choose, who to go in on for leaving, just because you don't like a player. You've got to be balanced across the board with all players in this situation. Rudiger's leaving as well. Yeah, okay. He's not dropped out of squads on the day and whatnot, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know how mentally strong Christensen is. People might cite, Jorginho playing through injury, Kovacic playing with a swollen ankle. I don't know how it fitted in his boot. Lampard playing days after his mum died. Okay, that's fine. But different players have got different mentalities and handle things in a different way. But what I would say is that you don't reach the top level of football by just constantly dropping out of games last minute because you don't fancy it. I refuse to believe that Andreas Christensen, who's been at Chelsea since 15 years of age, came over from Denmark, been here since he was 15 in the academy. He's come through the ranks, gone on to the first team, been out on the loan program, a couple of years on loan at Mönchengladbach in the Bundesliga, that he would actually do us dirty and just drop out of the cup final starting lineup on the day of the game without a valid reason. Now, if it comes out and, that was the case, then absolutely that's unacceptable. But, I refuse to believe that that's the case, that he just dropped out because he didn't fancy it, or he wasn't ready because he's moving to Barcelona. He's been there since he's 15. He's a professional football player. This is a guy that came on in the Champions League final for the injured Thiago Silva and was absolutely superb. Helped us win that trophy, helped us become champions of the world as well. So, I just think it's important that we provide a balanced perspective on this. It's so easy just to go in on a player, abuse them, this and that about them. Think about the bigger picture. There's two sides to every story. Reserve judgment until Christensen comes out and gives his side of the story and explains what he feels happened. Until you get the whole story, you can't decide. I'm seeing people say, "Oh, if this is true, it's unforgivable." Yeah, it's a big if. We've been reported small bits of it, and on the surface of it, it doesn't look good. But until you get the full picture, you cannot just be wading in. You've got to think about these things before just putting an abusive opinion out there. And you've got to bring that same energy for all players. It was also reported that supposedly some teammates were quite shocked and surprised as well. Now, that may well be the case. I mean, I don't know. None of us are there on the inside. We can only take, the reporters' words for it. But, I mean, potentially they could well have been. But maybe, it's down to the fact that it was so last minute. He said that he wasn't expecting to start the game. I mean, to be honest, I was at the final on the weekend. I kind of didn't think anything of it. I personally wasn't expecting him to start. I was expecting Thiago Silva to come in for him and Chalobah to play. And then I didn't really notice that he wasn't in the squad. Didn't really cross my mind. And then obviously this comes out and it's a totally different situation. But I mean, yeah, I personally, I don't know if the teammates are shocked or not. They could be shocked at the timing of it. I'm not sure what goes on. You wake up on the morning of a game and you don't feel right. I mean, he obviously gets very nervous. He may have anxiety issues. He could be ill with potentially something like Crohn's disease, maybe. And anxiety issues are a serious problem. Now, but again, as I said, I don't believe that you make it to the top level of football like Christensen has by having these issues and constantly having to drop out of games because, as cutthroat, as bad as it would be, at the end of the day, clubs want players that are reliable, and you don't make the top level by not being reliable. So, I don't think he's done the club dirty whatsoever. The abuse that's coming his way, I think, is unacceptable. Whether you like him as a player or not, players come and go all the time. Some players are mentally stronger than others. Others aren't quite as strong and handle things in a different way and need to drop out of games. And it looks like Christensen drops out of games quite a lot, but there's obviously an underlying issue there. So until he comes out and gives his version of events, then I think we need to reserve judgment, and players come and go all the time. But yeah, I mean, the fact his teammates were a bit surprised. I would personally say that would be to do with the timing of the announcement and not being there to cheer them on, which I think that for me is not right. But obviously he's going to Barcelona. Thomas Tuchel actually confirmed that this on quotes yesterday, I believe, when talking about trying to close the gap to Liverpool, saying it's difficult when we're constantly losing our best players. He was saying that Rudiger was going and Christensen was going. I think that's the first time he's publicly come out and said that Christensen is leaving. We kind of all knew that anyway. But yeah, Christensen strikes me as a nice guy. I think it's important to remain balanced on this. Yes, he would have forced Tuchel into a late rethink, and fair play to Trevor Chalobah for coming in and performing really well. But let's make no mistake about it. Christensen dropping out wasn't the reason that we lost that game. We defended really well, kept a clean sheet for 120 minutes. So yeah, him dropping out, whilst it might have caused a last minute rethink for Tuchel, wasn't the reason that we lost the game. Sources close to the player did state that he had been feeling unwell and did not expect to be named in the starting 11. That's from obviously Matt Law's report there. Adam Newson going on to say that, he'd been expected to start and the first team was shocked by him withdrawing from the squad, which, yeah, is certainly interesting. But, I mean, yeah, Christensen's always struck me as kind of a down-to-earth guy, a nice guy, and that he wouldn't do the club dirty like that by dropping out of games without a valid reason. So, as I said, until he comes out and gives his point of view, there's no point wading in, being abusive, being childish and calling him a snake, because there's two sides to every story. But guys, thank you for tuning in. That's just my thoughts on the Andreas Christensen situation. As always, please do smash a like on this video and please do click that subscribe button. It really helps me out. Subscribe to the channel. I'm hoping to hit 500 subscribers by the end of this month. Take care, guys, and up the Chels.